We're really excited to be here today. My name is Yuen, and I'm the Managing Director of Culture to Brand at ATB. If you want to know what that means, come and talk to me. We're a regional financial institution out of Alberta, Canada. And for the last few years, we've been on a comprehensive rebranding journey. And today, I'd like to share with all of you what I think is a really teachable moment in branding. At least it was for me, and I'm really excited to show you what we've accomplished. So all banks talk advice, but if advice is simply a destination, we saw opportunity in the journey. In the journey, we focus on meeting clients where they're at, showing up with intense curiosity, warmth, always leaving them feeling assured and optimistic. This is the premise behind our differentiated experience model. As a leader in culture and brand, we bring these facets of expertise to life by aligning how we work with what our clients experience, so culture and brand. This is why we're always exploring how effective our brand tools are unpacking the idea of expertise. In the last few years, like most brands, we've updated our visual identity, so logos, colors, and images, and of course, the words we use. But the real opportunity that we saw was with sonic branding. ATB needed a sound, and initially, like most people, to me that simply meant we needed a mnemonic. I soon realized it was about much more, especially after seeing an Ipsos study showing that audio brand cues are 8 times more effective than visual logos in evoking brand recall and linkage. Super important for a regional bank competing against Canada's Big 5 banks. Also, I learned the powerful role that sound could play in our macro strategy of communicating our strengths, resonating with our clients, and standing apart in our category. Our sound works across all touch points because it's much more than just a mnemonic. It's a comprehensive sonic identity system, and I believe first in our market. True to our tagline, we're powering possibility through sound for ATB, and true to our culture of sharing expertise, our partner, Sonic Lens, worked with our internal stakeholders and our research and insight partners at the Rebels. These collective efforts have brought the possibility of sound to life. I know this case study will open your eyes and your ears to the power of sound, and I'll turn it over to Marco to tell you the rest of the journey. Thanks.
Thank you, Jesse. So I run an agency called Sonic Lens. Our mission is to bring more strategic focus to audio branding. We believe if you look at any branding challenge through a sonic lens and infuse that intelligence throughout your journey across disciplines like strategy and design and into your big picture thinking, you can take sonic strategy from an old model of a one-size-fits-all mnemonic to a new model of owning a completely holistic sound in a completely holistic world that we live in today. To make an analogy, are the Rolling Stones just a logo? Are they just a musical riff? Right, that's a famous satisfaction riff. It instantly triggers brand recall like a mnemonic, but it's just one part of a much larger holistic sound that lives and breathes across all their different songs over many years and makes them iconic. When you hear anything by the Stones, you instantly flooded with memories, values, and belief systems that you've attached to that band over the time, like only music can do. We believe it's possible for brands to think more like bands, to have a sound instead of just an asset or a couple static assets. This is what ATB did by putting a legitimate sonic strategy first, and then using that to guide all their creative work. So this combination of creative and strategy plus creative is how you unlock the real power of music for brands, in our opinion. A discipline for which we were fortunate enough here at Transform to be named Brand Strategist of the Year 2 years ago, and then Creative Director of the Year last year, because of the process that we use. It's a process that I co-developed with my former partner, my mentor, my idol, Nile Rodgers.
Thank you, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
I wanted to have what we would call
music intelligence, because people, they don't know how to curate their brand properly with music. If you have the right music for the right product and you curate this properly, man, there's no end to it.
Right? Sounds better when he says it. So what he's talking about there is there's a lot of parts to the music, right? The music marketing mix. Don't just jump right into creative, that's okay for commercials, but not when you're dealing with the precious master brand. You got to do music intelligence first. That's all the research, it's all the analysis, it's a lot of data, including human subjective data, that allows us to create visualizations to explain the sonic landscape to marketing people and enable actual strategic conversations where you could point to things and point things out. And if you put that first and then your creative is guided by that, then there are literally, like he said, there's no limits on where you could use it, how you could use it, how accurate it'll be. It's just better. So for ATB, the process for us started with analyzing the sound of Canadian banks, understanding how well does their music evoke feelings of possibility, innovation, exploration, and expertise, and then discovering how poorly those core values are actually represented with music in the market, which presented obviously a beautiful opportunity for ATB to own that space with a real authentic brand voice. One thing that immediately jumped out was how erratic music was in the banking sector. Canadian banks had no sonic strategy, which made it obvious that ATB's consistency could be a differentiator. We also found the same randomness around musical era and surprisingly heavy reliance on retro music, again highlighting the opportunity for ATB to differentiate simply by developing a unique and culturally relevant modern sound. When we looked at brand archetypes, we saw that holistically ATB had embodied the attributes of the caregiver. This was also reflected in their music. While the other banks were all in the ruler category, but over time had migrated into the caregiver in an attempt to humanize their brands, also reflected in their music. This supported ATB's strategy of migrating into the sage archetype and leaning more heavily into their expertise well shared, leading us to expand our analysis to include sage brands outside of banking. And because our research told us that warmth is by far the most dominant tonality of music in the banking sector, we knew there was a mandatory goal. And so we looked at how other Canadian banks were achieving warmth using, you can turn it up, soft acoustic music, traditional styles, and ATB was using a dreamier approach to warmth, lush pads, more creative sounds, modern production techniques, dreamy vocals. You could turn the music up. It's a more innovative type of warmth. So over time, ATB began to mirror the sound of bedroom pop in our minds, a growing movement in Canada that gets its name from indie artists creating music in their bedrooms, finding ways to power their own possibilities without big record labels, resulting in a culture and a sound that reflects many of ATB's core attributes like resourcefulness, teamwork, innovation, optimism, and a genuine passion for sharing. And so we recruited the incredibly talented Munya, a breakout Canadian bedroom pop artist who had the perfect JV voice, indie sound, and optimistic vibe that we were looking for. She was super collaborative and worked with a team of bedroom pop songwriters to create a slate of record quality demos, following our very, very specific creative direction. And anyone hanging out for the award ceremony tonight, she's actually performing, so that's going to be a treat. She's amazing. So if we take a quick step back and look at where we were in our process, right? We had used music intelligence to define a very clear strategy and align with that with the client. Then we briefed our artists and composers and started making music. What happened next has never happened to us before. It's very rare at Sonic Branding, and it really took everything to the next level. Because Jesse fosters a sharing of expertise between his partners, we work with Rebels Research to include explorative research right into the middle of our creative process instead of at the end, giving us more insights to further guide our creative work. We took 3 songs into research in order to pull out elements that collectively could influence the creation of a master track. All 3 demos hit the bullseye for likability. That was great. They all evoked the core attributes that we wanted. Great. We could have picked one and moved on, but instead we wanted to learn more from clients' reactions to these 3 approaches. and then combine those insights to make the perfect track. This is the master brand. An A, you need an A+, okay? A isn't good. The Rebels helped us to design fun, engaging exercises for participants, like listening to a track, clicking on when you feel something, trying to identify what that is, what you like, what you're hearing, or having them click on images as a way to bring to the surface ideas and emotions that you're feeling when you're listening to music, because music is sometimes hard to describe, and then prompting them to explain what it is that they feel and why they made that connection. We also use research to help create a sonic language for the sharing of expertise. Taking a cue from Hollywood music, where thinking and problem solving are often expressed with precise staccato sounds bouncing around in patterns like neurons firing in the brain. We call this molecular sound. We developed our own molecular language to weave expertise across ATB's entire sonic ecosystem. We used interactive tools like sonic mood boards to explore what this molecular language may actually sound like. Is it organic and simple with a steady rhythm, steady pace? Is it synthetic and simple, a lot of reverb, a lot of space, just a few instruments? Is it some combination of performed instruments and synthetic molecules bouncing around, polyrhythms playing off of each other? By the end of this process of listening to this stuff with ATB stakeholders and focus groups representing their clients, we had a really clear idea. We're able to create a branded molecular language for ATB that supports their visual style, their motion graphics, and their personality, and allows ATB to weave a subtle, flexible thread of expertise across all their music, right down to their mnemonic, which is not just another cookie-cutter earworm like many banks. All right? Instead, ATB's mnemonic is unique in its ability to tell their brand story with sound. Expertise with molecular sound, ATB with 3 notes, and a vocal call to action reflecting ATB's human approach to sharing expertise and powering possibility. Having already validated our music, ATB then ran implicit testing on the mnemonic. This is when you use focus groups to measure consumers' immediate gut reaction without thinking too hard about it in terms of likability, memorability, effectiveness in evoking ATB's brand values in the context of other banks. Sentient Lab is a leader in this field and came back with amazing results.
This is one of the strongest performing sounds that we've ever had the good fortune to see. And we've been testing Sonic for a number of years, so we've seen it range all over the place.
So now we had kind of proven that we had the right music, the right mnemonic from which to build, and we started to develop a library of derivative tracks, which would allow ATB to communicate any of their core attributes at will, as well as custom tracks designed for their different client groups based on the feedback that we got during the qualitative research. This allowed us to assemble the most flexible sonic identity system in our sector, ready to use assets of any length, for any content on any platform, with a variety to convey different facets of our brand personality to meet all of our different content needs. We organized over 4,000 assets into a simple, intuitive system, Sonic Toolkits. Every asset clearly labeled, super easy to use, and everything is described in actual audio brand guidelines. So like their VIS, ATB's SIS is now an essential part of their official brand Bible, giving creators a powerful new category of brand assets they could now easily access and confidently include in their work. And as a music selection process can sometimes be super cumbersome, time-consuming, and maybe annoying, we even included tools like energy maps, which allow creators to quickly find the right audio track to match the narrative structure and energy of any piece of content. So now, as different areas of ATB begin rolling out their new sound across Alberta, across all their channels, content creators are limited only by their ideas. And while we might not have turned ATB into the Rolling Stones, we came close, but we were able to give them their own sound, like a band, right? That's the thinking we were talking about. Over time, when you hear anything ATB, you'll recognize them by their sound, not just their mnemonic. and attach to them the exact feelings, emotions, and attributes that define ATB and set them apart. This is what's possible when you put strategy before creative. Like Niall said, if you do this correctly, man, there's no limit to it. So this just started rolling out literally last month. We already have some examples from the SIS that we'll share, and then I'll open it up for questions.
Banking was designed a long time ago, in an era when man managed the finances of the household, the farm, and the business. Not anymore. W by ATB is reimagining banking for women-owned and led businesses.
At ATB, we're on a journey of truth and reconciliation. It's looking at how are we engaging and empowering Indigenous communities. The strides that we've made as an organization have been nothing short of remarkable, but there's still a lot of work to do.
They are the ones that tend to have to slow down the economy when it's too hot.
Both of these offer awesome advantages and perks for biz owners. If you have a business in Alberta and you aren't sure where to start, I seriously recommend just 3 letters, ATB.
Impossible can't take credit for this.
Impossible gives up. I persist.
Impossible moves too slow for me.
Choose possible.
Okay, so that's it in 15 minutes. Thank you. I'd like to call Gail. She's at Rebels Research. They were such an integral part of our thinking throughout the process. And I hope someone has a question or two.
Okay, I'm sure that there are some questions from that. Here we go. Again, if you can say which company you're from, what your name is, and then ask the question.
Hi, thank you. I'm Lucy from MasterCard. Hi there. Can you tell me, what are you playing with in terms of AI when it comes to, you've now got this amazing Sonic full canvas for symphony. Are you looking at playing with AI tools to be able to do dynamic generation of your stems?
I mean, as an organization, we are testing and using AI for a variety of things, especially within, like the productivity side of AI. We have Gemini now implemented across the organization, or at least within our department. From a creative perspective, trying to find some of those more routine, templated type tasks so that our creatives can actually spend more time on the strategic pieces of the work. I often talk about getting off the treadmill that we are on all the time, doing the same thing day after day, so that we actually can start exploring some of those exciting areas to really bring the brand to life. So it's more of a generic answer to AI, and because the Sonic branding portion of this is newer for our creatives and content creators, I think it's obviously going to weave into that too, but part of it too is how we feed AI, right? So even if we're going to use AI in creating our ads or print posters and content, we need to feed it with our guidelines and with what our standards are. And I think the same would be for the Sonic.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions? Yes.
Yeah, I'm Alex from Wider Words. Nice work. One question to Jesse. Were you aware of the scope, how large this project would be when you started? Because it seems like you've done it very holistically and gone every extra mile you could.
Yeah.
Did you plan it that way from the beginning, or did it happen in the process?
I definitely knew. I mean, I said we were thinking about a mnemonic, and that was slightly true. Like this journey that we've been on to develop a sound for ATB, we've been on it since 2016, but generally as an afterthought, right? Like we developed the platform, and then we're like, at one point our tagline was ATB listens, and we're like, oh, we listen, we should have a sound. And so we tried, and we treated it as if it was a request to the creative team. But soon, like after a lot of failures, working, trying to find a sound or a mnemonic, and learning a little bit more about what a mnemonic or a sonic identity system could be, just by looking at examples like MasterCard, like Avon, a few other ones, like I can't remember the bank in Europe, ING. So we looked at some of those case studies and really knew that sound is pervasive. A lot of the things that we produce, a lot of the experiences that we have include sound. So we knew that there was potential. Did I know what to ask Marco for? Not necessarily. And I think even in this process, Marco, what I really appreciate about Marco and Andy and Sonic Lens is just how open they were to bringing us along the journey, but also being open to our strategy, which again, because we had such a strong foundation, I think we were able to take it to the depths that we could. In 2016, we didn't have that. We didn't have our differentiated experience model. So without a solid, grounded strategy, it's hard to get to this point. It's hard to know what to ask the solutions to do, so.